We all know the story. There was once a botnet who caused a humongous amount of damage, took down a whole lot of websites, and made cybersecurity front and center for the rest of time. Yeah, we know as consumers that robust security is critically important to society. But as an engineer, what does CRA mean to you? What about Cyber Trustmark? How are you going to map the critical security functions in your next design back to the vital security regulations that are going to be implemented very soon? The Cyber Resilience Act, or CRA, the US Cyber Trustmark, and other global regulations are making robust cybersecurity protections mandatory now. So, how are you going to stay in compliance? Well, my friends, I've got some options to throw your way. Hi, I'm Amelia Dalton, host of Chalk Talk. In this episode of Chalk Talk, Jeni Nadar from NXP and Larry Stein from Digi and I investigate the security regulations center to the Cyber Resilience Act and how the various security functions included in NXP and Digi solutions can help you comply with CRA and the US Cyber Trustmark. And before we get started, don't forget to click that link. There you can find even more information about this topic. Hi, Larry. Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. And hi, Jeni. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, we're talking about how we can meet the requirements determined by the Cyber Resilience Act, or CRA. So, first, we're looking at more and more cybersecurity issues these days, right?
Yes, we are. As you can see on the very first slide, I don't mean to alarm you in any way, but these are some statistics that are taken from the fact sheet, which was released in 2023 by the European Commission. The facts that I'm going to tell you are from 2023, but in 2025, they've gotten a lot worse. For the beginning, you can see that around 10 million DDoS attacks happened worldwide. What a DDoS attack is, we'll come to that in the next slide, but that is really big and something that everyone should be scared about. Everyone knows about a ransomware attack, but a ransomware attack is not just limited to older people. They are happening everywhere around us. So right now, the estimation about ransomware attacks is it is costing the world $20 billion in 2023 already. And every 11 seconds, there was a ransomware attack. So in 2025, they've gotten a lot worse. So we can estimate it to be about every 10 seconds, a ransomware attack is happening. And this is costing the world more than $20 billion.
Wow, I did not know that, Jeni. So these kinds of security incidents have wide-ranging ramifications, right?
Yes, for sure. This is an example that we took, which is the most widely known example anytime we talk about cybersecurity issues. This is an example that is called Mirai malware attack, which happened in North America and parts of Europe back in 2017. So how did this attack happen? A hacker just managed to install malware into a lot of the smart home devices. And how did he go about doing this? It was rather extremely easy because it was only made illegal in 2020 in a lot of these countries that whenever you buy your router, your username and password will not be stored publicly on the internet. Because before 2020, anytime you bought a router, your username and password by default were somewhere available in the internet because they were of the opinion that, okay, when we sell a consumer router with a default username and password, they would change it. But again, statistics show that 97% of the people do not change that. This was a very simple way through which the hacker managed to get into a lot of the routers. And then once you get access to a router, any device that is connected to it can be easily infected. This is how they went about doing this attack. And they did this attack, or they planned this attack for about 1 year. So they got access to about millions and millions of devices. And when the time came and when the hacker hit attack on his laptop, all of these corrupted devices, which are called bots, they all sent a ping to the same server at the same time. And the amount of information that was being requested back was about 100 terabytes per second. Even for a simple Taylor Swift concert, even if he managed to bring the internet down, imagine 100 terabyte per second. How can a big internet server function? So everything went blackout. But why was this extremely important? Was because this attack was premeditated. This attack was happening on a company called Dyn. And Dyn is the server holder, which holds the server for companies like CNN, Twitter, Netflix, Amazon, and Alibaba. Can you imagine having Amazon down for 10 seconds? No. So the amount of revenue loss for Amazon and Alibaba because of this attack, and this attack brought down the server for about 7 to 10 hours, was massive. So this is why this attack is really popular. And this is one of the many DDoS attack examples that are well known in the market.
So, Jeni, let's also talk about the regulations in this space, and specifically the US Cyber Trust Mark and the Cyber Resilience Act.
Yeah, for sure. So this is the reason why countries or even a continent like Europe had to come out with our own set of regulations. So in Europe, we have something called as the CRA, or the Cyber Resilience Act. And in US, we have something called as the US Cyber Trust Mark. So CRA is EU-wide legislation, which will affect every market segment apart from the medical and automotive segment. We'll go into the details in the next slide, but this is for the customer's good and for companies like NXP and Digi's good. So this is the CRA, which is a standard. We'll come into the difference between standard and regulation later on. CRA is a regulation, whereas the US Cyber Trust Mark is a standard, because the US Cyber Trust Mark is not as far-fetched as the CRA, because CRA covers a lot more segments as opposed to Cyber Trust Mark, because the Cyber Trust Mark is only a labeling program for smart devices to give customers or consumers the tools to make informed decisions. And also, because it is a standard and not a regulation, it is not mandatory. These are the main differences between CRA and Cyber Trust Mark. In any case, it is important to note that US and EU, we are doing something to actually benefit the end customers. So also there are other regulations that we won't go into detail, because a lot of the requirements from the CRA and Cyber Trust Mark are covering these kind of regulations. But then there are regulations like PSTI, which is for the UK, and so on and so forth.
So, Jeni, what kind of trends are you seeing within these regulations and standards?
Well, let's just quickly go into a deep dive of what the CRA and Cyber Trust Mark are in fact. So like I told you in the previous slide, the Cyber Trust Mark is just a standard, whereas CRA is a regulation. We have the side-by-side comparison of the Cyber Trust Mark and the CRA. Cyber Trust Mark is only for the US, whereas the CRA is for all of the EU member states, with PSTI covering UK as well. So all of Europe is basically covered. The Cyber Trust Mark is only meant for consumer smart products, and it doesn't really cover any other segments, whereas the CRA is for all finished products with digital elements, both on the hardware and software subcomponents, for all of the verticals except automotive and medical. And where will this be checked? The US Cyber Trust Mark, because it is just a standard, is voluntary for the moment, whereas the Cyber Trust Mark is mandatory when you go to get your CE marking, without which you don't have access to the European market. There it will be checked. And again, because the Cyber Trust Mark is just a standard, there are no fines attached to it, whereas the Cyber Resilience Act has pretty hefty fines. The fines can range anywhere between $15 million or 2.5% of your annual worldwide turnover, whichever is higher. And the CRA, or the Cyber Resilience Act, is actually fully passed. It will be fully enforced in December of 2027, whereas a US Cyber Trust Mark, it is taking a bit of time to be passed. So now the expected date is around Q4 of 2025. So in the last quarter of 2025, or it can even be the beginning of 2026.
So, can we take a closer look at the different elements of CRA?
Sure, let's look at the CRA in more detail. Unlike previous regulations, the CRA introduces concrete technical requirements, clear obligations, and defined deadlines, establishing accountability across the entire supply chain. The fundamental pillars of the CRA can be summarized with these 6 items. Stricter cybersecurity. This raises the bar with stricter obligations and requirements that apply to design, development, maintenance, and even after a product is obsoleted. It also requires proactive removal of vulnerabilities and regular updates. Conformity assessments. Assessments are more detailed to ensure compliance with essential cybersecurity requirements before launching the product to market. Early vulnerability notifications. Any actively exploited vulnerability discovered must be reported to the authorities within 24 hours of detection to enable a rapid response. Product classification. There are different categories according to their level of risk: default, important, and critical, and the legislation has specific obligations for different products. Supervision and audits. These are more intensive to ensure continued compliance with cybersecurity requirements throughout the entire product lifecycle. Transparency and communication. OEMs must provide clear and up-to-date information on product security features and any relevant security issues. In a nutshell, CRA is a cybersecurity legislation, but it introduces new concepts, obligations, and requirements that will change the landscape of the European market.
All right. So, Larry, what kind of timeline are we talking about here?
Shown here is the timeline when obligations for manufacturers come into force. I'll go through some key dates. The law started to take form at the end of 2020 as a part of the EU cybersecurity strategy. It was published in the official journal of the European Union in November 2024 as Regulation EU 2024-2847. Highlighted are some of the more important milestones. First, on December 10, 2024, the regulation came into force, meaning it is officially adopted into EU legislation with a grace period before full adoption is mandatory. Any OEM around the world that sells their digital products in the EU must comply. The next milestone coming up is in June of 2026. This is when member states shall notify the Commission and other member states of the bodies authorized to carry out conformity assessments under this regulation. It is recommended that the organizations begin familiarizing themselves with the conformity assessment procedures and determine whether their products requires formal engagement with the conformity assessment body or if voluntary collaboration is appropriate to support compliance efforts well ahead of the 2027 deadline. And 3 months later, in September 2026, according to Article 14, reporting obligations of manufacturers will have to report to national authorities and ENISA, the European Union of Agency for Cybersecurity, about actively exploited vulnerabilities in their products. What does that mean? It means at the time, manufacturers need to have a process in place to detect vulnerabilities affecting their product so they can report these vulnerabilities. And it obviously will take a few months to fully implement such a process, so there's urgency to get going on this quickly rather than thinking CRA is only affecting me at the end of 2027.
That makes sense. Larry, can we also take a closer look at that stricter cybersecurity element you mentioned?
Sure. Let's look at the stricter cybersecurity product-related requirements that the CRA asks for first, and then take a closer look at the reporting obligations. During design, a cybersecurity risk assessment is required, and manufacturers need to establish an adequate security level based on identified risks. Annex 1, Part 1, Section 1. Products must be free of known exploitable vulnerabilities at release, ship with secure by default settings, provide adequate access control mechanisms and other protection as, for example, secure boot, ensure that vulnerabilities can be addressed in a timely manner through security updates, safeguard stored data and provide encryption, provide secure access, access control, and authentication. A lot of this is what people call security hygiene or cyber hygiene, but many companies fail to implement these and the CRA now puts these out as clear requirements.
So, Larry, secure by design alone isn't enough, right?
Correct. Secure by design alone is not sufficient. Let's look more at the reporting obligations and what that entails. And remember, this will come into effect first already in September 2026. What is required to get this done, and what does a manufacturer need to put in place to actually report on exploited vulnerabilities? Manufacturers must establish a vulnerability management and reporting process that entails the following: monitor and detect vulnerabilities in your system through regular SBOM scans, develop an internal process to assess vulnerabilities and publicly disclose information, report any actively exploited vulnerability within 24 hours as an early warning, and 72 hours with more information about the vulnerability, including any corrective action and mitigating measures that have been taken. And of course, develop a patching strategy to address vulnerabilities, including a remote update mechanism for security updates. As you can see, a whole new set of security processes need to be set up to fulfill these reporting obligations, which is not a small task. I'll hand it back to Jeni, who will walk us through the broad security feature set NXP is providing with their offerings to support these new cybersecurity requirements.
Excellent. Okay, so Jeni, what kind of initiatives is NXP putting forth to help solve these issues?
Security is a complex topic. The core expertise of IoT developers is in developing IoT applications. The IP camera vendor knows about image processing and compression, but not necessarily what it means to protect data in transit and at rest, or what strong cryptography looks like. Developing security capabilities takes time, and there is a shortage of resources worldwide. NXP plays an important role in securing the IoT ecosystem, providing a wide range of suitable solutions for different use cases and functionalities in the range of robustness that allows developers to select the right fit for purpose. With Edgelock Secure Enclave, Edgelock Secure Element, and authenticators providing enhanced protections. Edgelock is the security brand name of NXP and is the name of the full security ecosystem offered by NXP to address different aspects of these regulations. More specifically, security capabilities supported by a range of security features embedded in NXP silicon, and which, once combined, provide the security functions required by OEMs to comply. A range of NXP security tools and security services allows OEMs to easily activate and deploy security on devices. Secondly, the management of security over the device lifecycle. This is supported by NXP's advanced security technology, enhancing protection of security functions available on chip. For example, integrated Edgelock Secure Enclave, enhancing the isolation of security functions by dedicated and physically separated hardware security resources. NXP's advanced security technology has several benefits for OEMs. It is easier to demonstrate robustness and security assurance, mitigate the risk of corruption of security functions, and maximize resilience. The integration of Edgelock to Go service from NXP's can cover both Edgelock Secure Elements and Edgelock Secure Enclave. And this is proving to be an indispensable asset for OEMs to manage devices and meeting security maintenance obligations. And last but not even the least, it is the most important one, is the Edgelock Assurance Program. So security processes supported by the Edgelock Assurance Program, which provides confidence and assurance that NXP components have been developed with security in mind and according to the industry's best security practices, that they have been thoroughly reviewed and comply with the relevant standards. It includes third-party assessment of security features and provides OEM support for security incident handling. The Edgelock Assurance Program helps OEMs to address their requirements for a secure supply chain and use evidence of secure components, providing evidence from authorized third parties with regards to the best practices in manufacturing and design processes and device security applied by NXP. The PISA team works around the clock and is always available to respond in case of vulnerability reported.
All right, so Jenny, how do these security features map back to those regulations you mentioned earlier?
High-level requirements from regulations can be divided and gathered into 7 different categories, which can be seen on the slides. So the 7 categories are product configuration, authentication, access to product, data protection, product monitoring and cyber state awareness, vulnerability fix and product update, and reduction of incident impact and product availability. For each of these requirements, NXP provides security functions directly mapping and supporting the different requirements. The combination of these NXP security functions allows the OEMs to address different aspects associated with the requirements. As an example, secure product configuration can leverage secure boot and secure update features complemented by encryption, authentication, authenticated installation of verification keys in software with management and secure storage of device lifecycle. The availability of some of these security functions depends, of course, on the exact product considered, provided across NXP portfolio, but the scalability of these security features helps OEMs to the different levels of risks and threats. Some aspects of the requirements can only be addressed at the application level or operating system level, such as access control to application features, but can rely on a foundational core capabilities available on the NXP silicon, such as secure installation and storage of access credentials on the chip, as well as cryptographic services to support this access control at the application level.
So, Jenny, walk me through the different Edgelock solutions.
Sure, we have multiple solutions. So specific NXP advanced technologies strengthen the robustness and or ease of deployment of security countermeasures. More specifically, Edgelock Secure Enclave brings an enhanced level of isolation for security functions and advanced device integrity protection mechanism, foundational for resilience over device lifecycle. Secondly, we have Edgelock Secure Elements. So the Edgelock Secure Elements and Secure Authenticators provides protection of credentials against hardware-based attacks and optional personalization with custom credentials injected by NXP's manufacturing prior to the shipment of the IoT device manufacturing facility. And thirdly, Edgelock to Go services brings OEMs a turnkey one-stop shop solution without cost of ownership to provision necessary device keys and certificates at device, build, and commissioning time, as well as management of these credentials over the device lifecycle in response to regulations requirements of device security management over time or over the life cycle.
Can we also dig into the details of the Edgelock Secure Enclave a bit more?
Sure, we can. The NXP approach to protect and isolate security functions critical for the device is the Enclave, meaning a dedicated security unit with its own CPU core, immutable memory, and other memories physically isolated from the rest of the SoC. It is called the Edgelock Secure Enclave, which is the security brand name of NXP, and it covers all of the NXP security technologies. Not only is this approach allows us to implement advanced device integrity protection functions, but also draws a clear boundary and perimeter for security functions and sensitive data, such as cryptographic keys inside the chip, and so on. This technology approach goes beyond the trust zone, which we'll see a bit more in the next slide. But this technology goes beyond trust zone, which is based on the alternate execution of secure code and or normal code on the same resources. So NXP has been deploying secure enclave technology on the latest generation of MCUs, MPUs, and crossover processors in anticipation of an increasing need of security from the OEMs, given the steep rise of security incidents, but also in anticipation of upcoming regulations such as the Cyber Resilience Act or the US Cyber Trust Mark for connected consumer products.
So we have talked about Trust Zone previously on Chalk Talk. So how does it compare with Enclave?
So I'm not really saying that the Trust Zone is good or bad as compared to the Enclave, but they work very differently, as you can see on the slide. So the trust zone still works on the main core. So the main core is responsible for executing all of the code, both the secure and the non-secure code. But it is isolated in a time isolation manner. For example, if the main core is supposed to work on the secure code for some amount of time, the same amount of time will be given then to the non-secure code, then again to the secure code, and then again to the non-secure code, and so on. Everything is still working on the main core itself. Whereas in the secure enclave technology, the main core is working on the non-secure code, and the Edgelock secure enclave is working on the secure code. And both of these are happening parallelly, and there is a clear physical isolation. So pretty much you are sure that you are getting much better and much faster results as compared to the trust zone. Having said that, trust zone is still in our DNA, and trust zone can be found in a lot of our product portfolio. It's just that when you have a trust zone and a secure enclave on top, you can be very sure that, okay, the secure enclave can take off the secure part, whereas a trust zone can take care of some secure part or really not the security credentials of it.
That makes sense. So talk to me about the scalability aspect of Secure Enclave.
Sure. So the NXP processor portfolio is broad and includes a large number of SoCs, but also lightweight microcontrollers and connectivity ICs. To address the need of scalability, NXP has deployed two different types of Edgelock secure enclaves with different capability profiles. Edgelock secure enclave core profile, typically for constrained and lightweight devices. And Edgelock secure enclave advanced profile, typically for more powerful edge processing platforms such as crossover MCUs and MPUs. The core profile includes the following essential capabilities: a cryptographic API, including a true random number generator, which is used for on-chip key generation or generation of random challenges for security protocols, for instance. A secure key store, which is used to protect in the enclave and isolating various cryptographic keys from the rest of the SoC. These keys can be used in the secure boot process, for data encryption, for device authentication, for secure manufacturing, and so on. Then there is a pre-provisioned device identity with hardware unique keys. Then there is also a mean to attest the devices to remote entities. In some cases, also attestation of the software loaded at device boot. And we also have secure connections, the type depending on the target application of the IC. For example, setting up a TLS connection. And optionally, depending on the chip, Secure Enclave with the core profile supports natively NXP Edgelock to Go services for key management and enclave updatability or upgradability. These capabilities are included de facto on the advanced profile. The advanced profile also includes a runtime device protection capability in addition to the core profile capabilities. For example, readiness to measure executed software at runtime.
So, Jeni, can you also talk to me about the secure elements and secure authenticators of the Edgelock family?
So we also have a big range of secure elements. So if your application doesn't require a high level of processing or interface, then we have the A5000 and A30, which have a maximum flash of 16 kilobytes and limited cryptographic functions. Not limited in terms of its capabilities, limited in terms of the number of options you have as opposed to the SA05 family. These are carefully chosen cryptographic functions, which we know are mostly widespread and mostly well used by our customers. So then the A5000 and A30, they are the cheaper solutions as compared to the SA050 and 51. Now coming to the SA050 and 51, this is our standard offering. So the SA050 and 51, the one major difference between the two of them is that the 51 is updatable, whereas the 50 is not. If you want updatability to future-proof your solutions, so you don't know in 5 years, 10 years, what is the cryptographic landscape going to look like, and you would like to have the option to update the chip, then SE051 is your best bet and not the SE050. But both of them have very similar capabilities, with just SE051 having this updatability as an added function. Last but not the least, we also have the SE052F, which is meant for FIPS 140-3 level certification. So if at all you guys have an application which requires a FIPS 140-3 certification, then just please contact your nearest NXP office and they can give you a lot more details on the 52. But for general use cases, A5000, A30, SE050, and 51, this is our standard offering.
Okay, so Larry, let's bring you in and talk about Digi's partnership in this arena and the different secure embedded solutions Digi offers.
Sure. At Digi, we've specifically partnered with NXP for many years to provide secure embedded solutions, the Digi Connect Core SOM system on module solutions to our customers. They're designed to simplify and accelerate the development, deployment, and management of secure connected devices so you as a product manufacturer can focus on your core competency, the application, rather than focusing on the embedded design and the maintenance of it. We provide remote access and management capabilities for edge devices on our Connect Core cloud services, a broad security offering, including our security services, and a scalable range of system on modules based on NXP, which you can use to build your next generation connected products.
Excellent. Okay, so Larry, let's talk about Digi's Connect Core and the security elements included in this solution.
Yes, Digi leverages the essential security features NXP provides, and we are adding software and services on top of that to provide the full stack for OEMs to get secure products and solutions to market quickly, and very important, maintain these throughout the entire life cycle and in accordance to the CRA requirements and obligations. The main pillars of Digi's security building blocks are Digi's Trust Fence, a complete security framework, including Edgelock, to meet secure by design requirements. Digi Connect Core security services to adjust vulnerability management requirements, and Digi Connect Core cloud services to provide remote access to devices, monitor them, and securely update devices in the field.
Okay, so let's talk about Digi's Trust Fence security framework. What all does that include?
Digi's Trust Fence is a security framework that simplifies securing connected devices and enables OEMs to meet the CRA secure by design requirements. Trust Fence is offering ready-to-use security features, fully integrated and tested, that can be switched on for projects with a simple configuration change. There's no need anymore to become a security expert to implement these features. They work out of the box for all the different Connect Core SOM platforms. Trust Fence includes essential features like secure or high assurance boot, protected hardware ports, tamper detection, storage and file system encryption, secure firmware update mechanism, and more.
Fantastic. Now, Larry, maintaining proper software security throughout the product lifecycle is also important. How does this solution address this issue?
Digi's Connect Core security services are a collection of services and tools that enable customers to monitor and maintain the security of their products during the entire product lifecycle. This empowers customers to solve the ongoing challenge of keeping products secure after release, which is a requirement of the CRA. Our services include the analysis and monitoring of a custom software bill of material, SBOM, for security risks and vulnerabilities, a curated, filtered vulnerability report highlighting critical concerns is provided rather than a report that has thousands of vulnerabilities listed that may or may not affect the product. We provide an actionable report that saves many engineering hours of a security expert that would be needed to go through these lengthy reports to determine what is actually critical for that particular product. And to help fixing identified issues, a security software layer including patches for common vulnerabilities, as well as consulting services to fix remaining issues is provided.
Larry, what about the Connect Core cloud services you mentioned earlier? What all does that include?
Digi's cloud services empower OEMs to develop smart connected devices and maintain them after release with secure over-the-air updates. This is a service that enables OEMs to quickly deploy fixes for identified vulnerabilities to their fleet of devices in the field. On top of this, our services integrate programming software and feature-rich cloud platform with complete APIs, enabling remote management and monitoring of time series data retrieved from field-deployed devices.
So what about in-field maintenance? Can Connect Core help me here as well?
Sure. Digi's Connect Core cloud services include many features required for efficient device management in the field and to improve product quality, technical support, and customer experience, and capitalize on the data collected from devices in the field. But the main feature is the reliable and secure over-the-air update feature, which is required to get software updates deployed to devices in the field in a timely, cost-effective manner. We also have additional intelligence so software updates can be tagged with a criticality level to notify about critical updates for devices that are required to fix security issues. For CRA compliance, we have created a set of tables that I will shortly show in the next few slides that map the individual CRA security requirements from Annex 1 Part 1 and the vulnerability management requires from Annex 2 Part 2 to the features and services Digi provides within the Connect Core SOM solution with Digi Trust Fence, Connect Core Security Services, and Connect Core Cloud Services.
All right, so let's circle back to CRA. How can Digi help me comply with CRA?
Shown here is a mapping of the CRA requirements to the solutions Digi provides. I'm not going to go through this list in all its details. It's here for your reference to look at after the seminar. And here's the rest of the list of Part 2. Note how the descriptions of the CRA on the left side map to either Digi's Trust Fence software based on NXP's Edgelock, our security services, cloud services, or our BSP called Digi Embedded Yocto, or DAY for short.
So, Larry, what kind of applications would Connect Core be a good fit for?
Digi Connect Core provides for a range of SOM processors and processing power based on the NXP processors. The Digi Connect Core 93 shown here, based on the i.MX 93, is very popular in the medical, smart energy, and industrial markets due to our industrial temperature rating for the SOM and NXP's longevity. With the onboard Bluetooth and Wi-Fi radios, it also makes a great gateway device. Shown here is the Digi Connect Core 91, a single core processor product for more cost-sensitive applications. Makes great for headless applications without a display and also gateways. The CAN interfaces make it ideal for industrial applications. And coming soon will be Digi's Connect Core 95, based on NXP's i.MX 95, to be released in early 2026. This is a powerful processor supporting 4K graphics with hardware encode, decode, super speed USB, 10 gigabit Ethernet, as well as dual 2 gigabit Ethernets. The 2 TOPS NPU is a hardware accelerated machine learning engine. With LPDDR5 memory and inline ECC, this processor is also ideal for high compute industrial and medical imaging products.
So, Jeni, what would you like my audience to take away from this presentation?
So NXP offers a comprehensive and scalable portfolio designed to accelerate your go-to-market strategy efficiently and securely. Our solutions are built with security at their core, ensuring that your innovation journey remains protected every step of the way. We are fully committed to supporting you throughout your path towards CRA compliance, cybersecurity mark compliance, and we are here to assist you with our expertise and dedication.
Fantastic. All right. So, Larry, what would you like my audience to keep in mind about the issues we've discussed today?
Just to summarize, the Digi Connect Core SOM solution provides a complete ecosystem with tools to speed up development, a range of scalable system-on modules, including wireless connectivity, and the services you need to create your next-generation secure products that comply with these new regulation requirements and maintain these throughout the entire product lifecycle.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's all I have time for today. Thank you so much for joining me, Larry.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining me, Jeni.
Thank you so much for having me.
And before we go, you didn't forget to click that link, did you? There you can find even more information about this topic. For Chalk Talks, I'm Amelia Dalton from eejournal.com. For more Chalk Talks, head on over to the Chalk Talk section of EE Journal. You can't miss it, it's right across the top. Or head on over to YouTube, youtube.com/EE Journal.